Okay, it has been brought to my attention that I haven't made a video on this section of Act 5, and I'm doing this a little bit off the cuff, and for transparency's sake I've also borrowed Dean's book, so I didn't have to go back into my room and disturb a lesson that's in there. Right, I'm going to skip over the first bit because it's just more nonsense between Feste talking about money and stuff, and the whole point of this act is to get everybody into one place and then have the topsy-turvy nature of the play resolved, and obviously that's not going to come about in a straightforward fashion, otherwise it wouldn't be funny, it wouldn't be Shakespeare. Okay, so start again, Jules. Feste has been sent to get Olivia, and in the meantime officers arrive with Antonio. And Viola recognises Antonio as the man that saved him in the fight, and Orsino also remembers him. Now, as you know, one of the things that I'm a little bit obsessed with is how Orsino, he always goes for like the romantic aspect of the story. I mean romantic as in, you know, tales of bravery and daring do and all the rest of it. And so when he sees Antonio, he says, you know, that face of his I do remember well, yet when I saw it last it was besmeared as black as Vulcan in the smoke of war. You know, so he goes for that kind of that hyperbole again. He then goes on to praise Antonio. A bauble vessel was he captain of, for shallow draught and bulk unprizable. He was in charge of a bit of a rubbish ship, with which such scatheful grapple did he make with the most noble bottom of our fleet, that very envy and the tongue of loss cried fame and honour on him. So here envy is personified, and it's the idea that he was so good a kind of sailor, a fighter, that even those who he defeated called for him to be honoured. So again, what he's doing, he loves to edit his stories as he goes along, doesn't he, Orsino? And so here he remembers Antonio as this brave fighter, and it's the officer who has to remind him. He's like, yeah, and I don't know if you remember, but he's also the guy that stole a load of freight from Crete, and he's also the guy that was on the ship the Tiger when your nephew lost his leg. Remember him? Of course he doesn't. That's of no interest to Orsino. Here in the streets, desperate of shame and state, in private brabble did we apprehend him. So we found him here, in a fight, not caring who saw him. And Viola says, yeah, you know, he did. He fought on my side, and he acted as though he knew me. It was really weird. So Orsino turns to Antonio, notable pirate, thou saltwater thief. I love that. I love saltwater thief. You know, what on earth are you doing here? And first of all, Antonio very confidently, he's going to say, look, don't call me that. I'm not a thief or a pirate, although he said earlier in the play he stole from Orsino, but never mind. And he's straight in to talk about why he's here, and it's another opportunity for him to to talk about how he feels about the spell that he believes Sebastian, who he thinks is standing in front of him, has done to him. Refers to him as a witchcraft being put on him, calls him ungrateful. And then this lovely bit with this personification and this gustatory imagery as well. From the rude seas, this enraged and foamy mouth did I redeem. That word redeem is really important because it has the religious connotations there as well, about giving a second life. A wreck past hope he was. And he says he did all of this in dedication, and it's for his love that I took this risk to come into this town. And when I started to defend him, he acted like he'd never seen me before in his life. So he's been completely rejected and grew a 20 years removed thing. Not only that, but to add insult to injury, he wouldn't even give me my own money back. And Viola's like, what are you talking about? And Orsino has the presence of mind to ask, well, when was this? And he says, today, because for the last 3 months, we have not had a minute's separation, both day and night. So again, if you want to impose another kind of reading on this, I mean, it would have been quite common actually for men on campaign, in combat at these times, to sleep, to spend, to be in the same bed. This comes up in Othello with Iago and Cassio. So it's not like, it doesn't have to mean, something gay, but it certainly tells us that they have been very, very close. But Orsino, here he is, like the small child, is distracted by the shiny object of the Countess. Now heaven walks on earth. And again, how can any woman live up to this kind of expectation? Here she is. It's hyperbole, it's religious imagery, and it's just annoying, isn't it? He does kind of go, yeah, but hang on, no, that can't be possible because this guy's been with me for 3 months. Anyway, and Olivia more or less says here, what do you want? What can I do for you that is like, reasonable? And she notices, Cesario, whoa, you do not keep promise with me. So there's the kind of confusion. What do you say, Cesario, good my lord? My lord would speak, my duty hushes me. So Viola's like, I can't reply because Orsino wants to speak and he's my superior. And in one of my favourite lines in the whole play, oh God, you sound like a broken record, she says, if it be aught the old tune, my lord, it is as fat and fulsome to mine ear as howling after music. So this takes us right back to line 1 of the play, if music be the food of love, play on. Well, Olivia does not want it to play on. She wants it to stop because it sounds gross, and cloying, and it's like listening to a dog. She is fed up. And Orsino's still so cruel. Olivia says, no, still so constant. She hasn't been cruel. She's just said, I don't want anything to do with you. And he says, what, to perverseness? And this idea of perverseness is interesting. If you think of it more in terms of to pervert the course of justice or to follow an unnatural path. He's saying that the way that he's acting is so... the way that she's acting is uncivil. The fact that she's constantly rejecting him is not even within the bounds of civil behaviour. And he points out that he has poured his heart and soul out for her, right, on these altars that have done him no good. And the air devotion tendered. The book's gone a bit wonky. And tendered is doing a bit of work there, because we tendered as in like legal tender, so we're back to that transactional notion of love, but also the word tender. He's saying that he's offered her kind of this really tender devotion. What shall I do? Orsino says, and Olivia's like, I don't care, do whatever you want. Now from this, what does Orsino go? Right, he's in a rage. He's instantly in a rage. And you've got a choice as a director. Is this serious? Do we take this seriously or not? And he says, like to the Egyptian thief at point of death, kill what I love. Again, this is, for me, further evidence that Orsino has no experience of real love. Everything he knows about love comes from, the courtly romance tradition. It's everything that he's read, it's poetry, it's plays that he's seen, it's stories. And this is a story that comes, as if you look in your notes in the Arden, from the Greek romance Ethiopica. I'm not even sure how to pronounce that. Never heard that word said out loud before. So it's this idea that you've got to act in a really extreme way, whether we take him seriously or not. I mean, he seems pretty angry in the Tim Carroll production, doesn't he? But hear me this, since you to non-regardance cast my faith, and that I partly know the instrument that screws me from my true place in your favour, he says, live you the marble-breasted tyrant still. So, okay, you carry on being this stone-cold, this hard-hearted, you know the word tyrant from your study of dystopian fiction, someone who rules tyrannically and cruelly over you. So instead, he's not going to kill what he loves, or rather, maybe he is here, but this your minion whom I know you love. Then he says, and whom by heaven I swear I tender dearly. There's that word tender again. Him will I tear out of that cruel eye. He said, right, I know who's done me wrong here, and it's Cesario, so I'm going to kill him instead. Where he sits crowned in his master's spite. Come, boy, with me. My thoughts are ripe in mischief. I'm ready to do some harm. And he says he's going to sacrifice the lamb. Oh, hello. The lamb that I do love. The lamb that I do love. To spite a raven's heart within a dove. So, yes, Dean. Thanks, Dean. Great notes. The disguise, the prompts, the duplicity. So he says, you've looked like a dove all along, but you've got a raven's heart within. You're completely cruel. Well, he's kind of on the right lines, but not. And Viola says, of course I'll die for you, darling. Whoa, what an idiot. To do you rest, 1,000 deaths would die. Well, he starts to drag her away, or she follows him. Where goes Cesario? After him I love. So we start to see the shared lines here. Right, where goes Cesario? After him I love. It's doesn't quite scan. It's only one syllable over, but they start. So we get a lot of shared lines between Olivia and Viola, Viola and Orsino and Olivia in this section. And shared lines are really interesting, and they're often very deliberate. So they're often suggestive of intimacy, of a shared understanding, a shared mindset. So why have we got all three of these characters sharing lines? Well, I think it's because we haven't resolved that love triangle yet. That it's all still messy, isn't it? And we might want to have a look at whether those shared lines end after the arrival of Sebastian. So Viola swears that she'll go and follow him because she loves him so much. I me detested, how am I beguiled? Who does beguile you? Who does do you wrong? Hast thou forgot thyself? Is it so long? Call forth the Holy Father. So we've had shared lines, and now we've got this rhyme as well, and this repetition. It's like they're all on the same page, but they're on different paragraphs somehow. Orsino demands, come away. Whither, my lord? Cesario, husband, stay. Husband? Aye, husband. There's that shared line again. Can he that deny? Her husband, Sirrah, finished with, no, my lord, not I. You see what I mean? About how they're all kind of tied together. The pace increases as well. This has got to be done pretty quickly, hasn't it, before they really do figure it out. And Olivia says to Viola, look, I know why you don't want to admit what's just happened between us. It's because you're scared. The baseness of thy fear that makes thee strangle thy propriety. Fear not, Cesario. Take thy fortunes up, and in an echo of what was forged in the letter, be that thou knowest thou art, and then thou art as great as that thou fearest. Be that thou knowest thou art, i.e. betrothed to me, act like my husband right now, and then you will be as great as he, Orsino, that you fear. You don't need to fear him because you'll be on the same level as him. Obviously, she's talking to the wrong person. In comes the priest to reveal what's happened. Contract of eternal bond of love, confirmed by mutual joinder of your hands. And he ends here by saying, and all this was just 2 hours ago. So you can imagine Orsino's response, that under his very nose, his serving man, his gentleman actually, has gone off and has become betrothed to the woman who he's supposed to be wooing for him. And he refers to him as a dissembling cub, a cheating, a lying baby bear. What wilt thou be when time hath sowed a grizzle on thy case? Do you think you'll be able to get away with this when you're old and ugly? Or will not else thy craft, and there's that echo of that word witchcraft again. You basically watch out, because you'll end up the phrase like coming a cropper, or like you'll be, thine own trip shall be thine overthrow, that you are going to end up like me. And so it ends with him saying, fine, have her, but don't you ever come where I am ever again. I never want to see you again. And Viola is still protesting. She still doesn't want this to happen. Olivia is still convinced it's just to do with fear. until we get the arrival of Sir Andrew. So what's important here is that Shakespeare's brought everything up to this really kind of dramatic point. How is this feeling like a comedy? You know, this is not how comedies end. They traditionally end with marriage and happiness and everyone's fine. But we've got a guy here threatening to kill people. Viola doesn't have a clue what's going on. Olivia's been completely deceived. So to break that tension, what better than the arrival of who you might argue is the real fool in the play, Sir Andrew, and he's come in completely oblivious of who's around him and is just asking for a doctor. And he wishes, rather than anything in the world, that he were at home. He gets the word incarnate wrong because he's an idiot. Should say incarnate. He then tries to blame Sir Toby. He's not wrong there for what's happened. Viola's completely confused, and Sir Andrew says, look, you know, you're lucky. You only got away with this because Sir Toby was so drunk. And then, I don't know, we've talked about this in the lesson. Olivia's like, you know, that just wants rid of them. She's, you know, absolutely fed up at this point. And off they go. And Sir Andrew says, I'll help you, Sir Toby, because we'll be dressed together, meaning we'll have our wounds dressed, you know, bandages applied. And Sir Toby just rounds on him. He's just so insulting to him. And some of the ideas we came up with in the lesson were that he doesn't even need to pretend to Sir Andrew anymore. He can't get any money out of Sir Andrew. He's going. So he's just going to be horrible. And perhaps to remind the audience as well, you know, look, this is what he's really like. You know, he's not learned anything in the process of this play. He's just horrible. And that's where we got to until Sebastian arrives. So if you missed that scene, I hope that helps.